will soon be recorded. Got it? All right.
Should you start over?
It's being recorded, and we hope to have it available on our website or someplace where you can where you'll be able to share it with your friends. We remind you to mute and turn off your video to
Oops. Ah,
Port Book and News. What am I hearing? For 34 years, Port Book and News is honored to host this event exclusively for people who purchased PyCamp from our bookstore. Kate's book does not go on sale to the public until tomorrow. So if you have a copy of this book in hand at this time, you are one in approximately 16,400,000 people. We're very grateful to Kate for convincing her publisher, Countryman Press, a division of W.W. Norton, to allow us to do this. That's Brooklyn licking me. We thank all the people at Countryman who work to ensure that we receive the books in time to send them out to all of you. Kate McDermott has been a dedicated supporter of this independent community bookstore, her hometown bookstore. She always encourages Pie Campers to purchase through us, and especially at this time, under current circumstances, her support has been invaluable. For 4 years, she has made the holiday season that much more happy and merry. So Kate, we cannot thank you enough. And to all of you out there, we're grateful for your support and appreciative for your patience with us. We have shipped over 150 books to at least 36 different states. Your words of encouragement have been uplifting. Your enthusiasm has been a joy to observe. So the format for the rest of the event will be first a brief conversation between Kate and me, maybe 15 or 20 minutes or so. And then if you have any questions for Kate, you can start to enter them now. And our staff Zoom facilitators, Helena and Vanessa, will present them to Kate as best we can after the discussion. And perhaps 15 minutes for those questions. And then after the questions, Kate will have a little pie making demonstration. And then some concluding remarks. And if you're on the East Coast, we hope to have you in bed by 11. And all that said, I welcome the young in spirit lady I have known for over 30 years. I remember her son, Duncan, as a small boy reading Gary Larson Farside books on the floor of our bookstore. Perhaps the second best-selling author in the history of Port Angeles and the Olympic Peninsula, Kate McDermott. Kate.
hi. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome to my kitchen.
So, and to our living room and to the bookstore. So first off, Kate, did you get your garlic in the ground successfully?
I did. I planted 300 cloves of garlic today. I had help. I had Olivia, my son's partner from right next door, and another friend of mine out in the garden, and we got everything planted. I'm so pleased.
It's a beautiful day. That's what we do here on the Olympic Peninsula. For those of you who think it rains all the time, no, we do beautiful days here.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Oh. Oh, well, we'll erase that from the recording. So first off, Kate, you know, you're not just a sensational cook, but you're also a wonderful writer. And I don't know that you always imagine yourself as such, but you've discovered the key to great writing, which is to write what you know, about what you love, and do it from the heart. Could you talk a little about that process for us?
I can. And actually, writing came as a complete shock to me because I've told people this part before at times. I went to a very small girls' school in Santa Barbara where I was raised. And I had the same English teacher for 4 years in a row. And Mrs. Greaves would always give me the same comments on my papers. They said B-, not D-, but B- needs more development. And no matter what I did, I would get the same grade. So I didn't think I could write. And then later when I went to college, I would write and I would get these good grades on my papers. And I thought, oh my goodness, is university easier than my high school, my prep school? And then later, when I started writing for a blog, I had an advisor who is a published author, and she very kindly said to me, there are other verbs besides all of the versions of to be. And she said, in this one piece, you have probably to be, and it's varying tenses and whatever, maybe 18 times. And there are other verbs. So I kept writing and writing. And then one day I wrote something, and she said to me, she wrote me right back. I didn't think about it at all. I wrote, and she wrote me an email and said, now I hear your voice. And what I realized in doing that was I had just come down after picking a tree load of cherries, of sour cherries at a friend's house. And I felt like I was just covered in sticky cherry juice, and the cherries were so good. They were sour, but they were verging on sweet. And I came home feeling like, oh my gosh. And I just sat down and I just hammered out this blog entry. And that's when she said, now I hear your voice. And what it was is getting out of the way of thinking about it, of how to write, and just writing how I would speak to you. And I think that's the thing that I have tried to do in the books, is to write from as if I'm speaking to you, because I am speaking to you.
I talk to a lot of people at the store who always have stories that they tell me, and I love the stories, and I say to them, have you written that down? And they say, no, I'm not a writer. And that's interesting you say that, because I always tell them, no, but you're a talker.
Yes.
So why don't you just, record it into a tape recorder? Or
if you're a talker, you're a storyteller.
That's it. And everybody has a story to tell.
Everybody does.
All right, so like we sell music boxes in the store, and we suggest them as gift for loved ones suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, or like volumes of poetry for a person who has always remembered the poems they memorized in grade school. Cooking can bring comfort and trigger a connection to things deep in our psyches. After your grandmother, Jeej, suffered a stroke, you handed her a bowl full of ingredients, and she began to make a pie. Jeej was so formative for you. Would you consider sharing that story with us and talk about pie therapy? After all, you are our nation's pie-chiatrist. And maybe the story can be read in the introduction to Art of the Pie if you want it in more detail, but it's there. Could you talk about that?
I can certainly, and actually I have her picture here. Jeej is right here. Right here. That's my grandmother. And that's my mom on this side over here. And that's me. I was 26 years old, 26, 27, and that was my daughter, Sarah. And so when I would say probably, a couple of years after this, I came into the kitchen or I was in the kitchen at home. Actually, I think it was actually before this. This was a good moment for her. And it was like all her file cards were flustered, just rattled. Nothing was making sense. And she came in and she was really pretty, she knew something was wrong. And for some reason I said to her, Jeej, can you make a pie? And she just like snapped and looked right at me with, her eyes were extremely piercing blue. And she said, well, yes. It's just like, well, yes. And I don't know what prompted me to say that, other than she was the pie maker in the family. And I got her stuff out and she started making a pie. I got, the bowl and the flour, and she was a Crisco baker, and I got everything out. And she started putting things in there, and she was getting the ice water in, and then she got to the point where she was rolling it out, and I could see tears on her cheeks rolling down, and she turned to me and she handed me the rolling pin. And I really felt like at that time that she had passed on the mantle of being the pie maker in the family to me. And that was the last pie she ever made.
Yeah, we all know.
You know how to get me, Alan.
That's why, yeah. All right. Thank you for doing that. You
That's
know, 'cause
okay.
we all know people who are suffering from that, or from a lot of things, and from present situation. And um, I believe that there's always a connection that can be made. We just have to figure out what that connection is in there. So thank you, Kate.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
So your books are literary and instructive and beautifully photographed, but the photography is not only a stunning presentation of the recipe, but also a brilliant reflection of the text. Andrew Scrivani, who has done the photography for each of your books, is the food photographer for the New York Times, and his work is respected internationally. His latest book is That Photo Makes Me Hungry, and in your books, they certainly do. Can you talk about your collaboration with Andrew Scrivani,
Oh, yeah.
how that came about? Because you're lucky to have landed him.
I am. I am part of a dream team. And I know that what I experience as an author is not usual. I have a team. I'm a team player. Everybody is part of this team. And Andrew, I had met, oh gosh, years before, a few years before I had any book contract. And we were actually at a food event, a blogger event. There was an organization called International Food Bloggers Association or something, like conference. And we were sitting at the bar after, and I think it was in Portland. And I said, oh, wow, like, would you ever consider shooting a book if I ever got a contract? And he said, yeah, I would. And I was like stunned, so I sort of filed that away. And then a few years passed and I got asked by, I'm very lucky that I received an email from my publisher inviting me to come and talk with them. I never had to go beat the pavement to find a publisher or an agent. Anyway, we were in the process of this and I said, well, I can get Andrew Scrivani. And they just looked at me, what? And I said, yeah, I can get Andrew Scrivani. And so I did. And Andrew I spend 1 week, well, he spends 1 week out here photographing in my house. And I actually, one of the bedrooms in the front that has a south facing window and it has a west facing window. I took everything out of that room and it becomes his studio. And my living room is full of props. He has an assistant that lives in the Seattle area, the greater Seattle area. And, a truckload of props comes into my house. I have a camp kitchen on my deck. And, another refrigerator out there. And, I start at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we finish when the light is, there's no more shooting light. And then there's kind of a potluck at the house. We put the stuff out, but all I'm doing is handing out the food and putting it on a table because I have to prep for the next day for the shoot. So my days during photo shoots here run from 6 in the morning until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I go to New York and I'm there for a week and we shoot 5 days straight and I sleep in the studio. There's a little futon there that I pull out and I sleep in the studio. And again, I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning prepping for a shoot that will then go all day. And then we stop and I'm, prepping for the next day. They're grueling. They're a lot of fun. At times you're tearing your hair out saying, I agreed to do this. I'm exhausted. I agreed to do this, but the quality of Andrew's work, he's always striving for the best and to make these photos ones that you do want to eat. He brings my recipes to life so that you want to just put a fork in the book.
And I think more than that, I mean, there's a depth of perception to the photographs that seem to go along with what you're trying to, I don't know that you're just trying to make a pie. I don't know if you understand that, you're doing more than that.
I
You're
am.
doing more than that in the
know,
pie.
When we do, especially if I can just talk about Art of the Pie for a moment, his wife was the visual director for the New York Times also, or let's see. I think she was the visual director for the New York. Now she's with the New Yorker and does video stuff for the New Yorker. But she would, the first photo shoot that we did in New York for Art of the Pie, she actually took a week off to work on that shoot as a photo stylist. And I said, oh my God, I can't pay you because, all this stuff comes out of your author's advance. So you're, basically working for nothing as an author. And I said, she said, oh, no. She said, I have so much accrued vacation time. This is fun for me. So what she, as a storyteller for her especially, she would say, tell me the story of this pie. Yes. Andrew would ask these questions. Where would you be? What season would it be? Who would be eating this? And so then they would pull props based on the story that I told them of where this pie, where it came from, any history that I had with it, who I would be serving it to, what time of, the season of the year.
Perfect. And so when you, luck is the residue of design. When you saddled up to that bar, did you know you knew he was there? You knew it was him, you knew he was there?
Yeah, I had met him, actually I had met him before. I had heard that this fancy New York photographer was coming to do a photo workshop in Seattle. And I happened to know the person who was going to be at the place where it was going to be. And I said, well, at that time I was working in PR and for Taylor Shellfish Farms. And so I created their social media and their website department. And so I was always looking for opportunities for them. So I said to the person who was producing this workshop, do you think he'd like some oysters? Do you think he'd like some oysters, to photograph? And so they asked and he said, yes. So I brought oysters, I shucked them, I talked about them. I also brought a gooey duck. And I also brought some pies. And they photographed the pies. I'm not dumb, like this was a big New York photographer. And I thought, it's like, now I'm on his radar.
Good move. Sneaky, but good. Okay. So I've always regarded your books and your passion as pie and the art of living. And in your books, you repeat Kate's 3 rules of pie making and life. Keep everything chilled, especially yourself. Keep your boundaries and vent. Would you elaborate, please?
Only if I must. So I think they say that you teach or maybe write about, what you need to learn the most. And apparently these are 3 rules that I practice a lot because, maybe I need to. So the first one, in terms of with pie making, keep everything chilled, especially yourself. We always hear about, keeping the dough chilled and keeping the fats chilled. But also in terms of your environment or your hands, butter starts getting soft at 59 degrees. Well, the normal temperature of our hands is in the high 90s. So if you're touching dough with, hot hands, it can melt your butter, so you just want to think of these things. If you have hot hands, well, one little tip is to hold ice cubes or dip your hands into an ice water bath or something like that. Don't turn on the lights or your oven, for God's sake. Don't preheat your oven until you absolutely have to. So keep everything chilled, especially yourself, has dual meanings because, this is just pie making. This is not rocket science. So, chill. If it doesn't turn out quite like you like it, then get the lasagna pan out and you turn everything into there and suddenly you have the best crumble in the world. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is to keep your boundaries. And I think that's just an important thing in life. And, one that I keep, I've worked on that. I continue to work on that. And pie is a really good, it's a good way for me to take a look at that of if I overfill something, if I overfill the pie pan, it's going to just go over into my oven, and you get the smoke and the alarms going off, and how much better it would have been instead of burning if I had just said, oh yeah, that's where the line is. That's good, and I get to enjoy it all. And then, so that's, keep your boundaries. And then the third one is to vent. And I think venting appropriately is something that everybody, I think it's a good thing to learn to do. And I think pie making is a very good outlet to be creative and to have some beautiful vents so that the steam comes out and doesn't burst through the weakest parts of your crust, which could be, if you're not venting, it's going to come out somewhere.
Yeah, for a whole bunch of reasons, I think a lot of people have something to vent, and maybe we feel like we're the only ones that have to vent about something, but we're not, and we should.
Yeah.
Want somebody to vent to.
On that note, we do have some audience questions if we want to try answering some of those.
Yeah.
Try that. Go ahead.
Okay. The first one is from Lorraine Lewis, and she's got a few tucked in here. So she says that you mentioned the fat of your choice in recipes. And what is your personal recommendation for those fats?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question, Lorraine. I really appreciate that one. I think use what you're comfortable with. And I use my favorite dough in Art of the Pie is one that uses both leaf lard and butter, but I also make an all butter crust that I'm absolutely in love with in my new book, Pie Camp. And so it's called the 1 Cup Out dough. Excuse me. And I can do that one all butter. I can also make it with leaf lard and butter. I think if you want to do 50%, half of it butter, a dough, you can do half of it butter, you can do half of it with the leaf lard, which is a special fat that's from around the kidney area of a pig. And it's rendered, of course. But you can also do half Crisco. So, it really is, it's really up to you of what you have. And as far as salted or unsalted butter, my grandmother used salted butter, and I've always used salted butter. And now there seems to be a resurgence of interest in salted butter in the food community. It's like, oh, we've discovered salted butter and we can bake with it. Well, yeah, we've been baking with it for decades.
All right, thank you. She also asks if vodka in crust recipes, does adding vodka really make the crust flakier?
What vodka does is it is a liquid that when it mixes with flour, it does not make gluten. Flour and water, when mixed together, make the protein gluten. Gluten is what you want to have when you're making bread. You are kneading the bread and it's lovely. There's nothing like kneading bread as far as I'm concerned. I love making bread, but you don't want to knead your pie dough, because if you make too much gluten, you have to have enough gluten to hold it together. But if you have too much, because you have overworked your dough with flour and water, then you get a tough dough. The purpose of one of the nice things about the vodka is that it's a liquid that will make that dough moist, but it doesn't have the same reaction. It doesn't make that gluten, that it just doesn't. Okay, so I did test for that recipe, and I found that it's a good recipe. It's not my favorite recipe. It's a very good recipe. It's not my favorite.
Thank you. And then what is the best pie pan in your opinion between like Pyrex glass or aluminum or ceramic? What do you prefer?
Well, I have a collection of over 100 pie pans, and I do use all of them at different times. I think it's not so much what is your favorite, but do you know how to bake in it? Do you know the signs to how to basically, how to bake in it? For example, a metal pan is gonna it's gonna the heat is going to conduct in that, quite quickly, especially if you put it on like a preheated sheet pan. A big ceramic pan. I love all the French makers. I have a number of Emile Henry pans. I love the colors. I have a number of Le Creuset pans and also stove pans. Those are the 3 big French makers. I love the pans. When I use them, they heat up slower, but they hold heat. There's heat retention. So when that pie is coming out of the oven, it's still baking for a while. Glass, I have a love and hate relationship with glass. And I'll tell you, the new Pyrex, I am no longer using. I was, right before we shut down with COVID, I took my I hope it's not my very last trip, but I did take a trip to meet a new relative in Florida. And I was making pie with my new 4-year-old great nephew. And I was making an apple pie we went to the store and we got the Pyrex pie pan. And I took it out of the oven and I put it on a counter that was metal and it exploded. So there are some things, just let me tell you about that. If you are using the glass pans, put it on a cloth. Don't put it directly on a surface. You must put it on a cloth and follow the manufacturer's directions, which actually tell you to do that.
Okay, thank you, Kate. On that note, what types of apples do you recommend for putting into a pie?
Okay, I love that question. I like to put some apples that are sweet and some that are tart, some that hold their shape and some that don't. And that way I have a wide variety of texture and flavor. So, and I'll go to the store and kind of take one of everything. Mm-hmm. I like to be one. My apple pie likes to be one with everything.
That's great.
Well, it was Carl Sagan who said that if you want to make an apple pie, you must first create the universe.
We should put these on shirts with an apple pie, one with everything.
I'm sure somebody's done that somewhere.
Okay. Oh, Lorraine Lewis has one more question for you. How can you tell a new Pyrex pan from an old Pyrex pan?
Okay. The new Pyrex pans are made, if you look at the logo, it is in lowercase Pyrex. Okay. And the old Pyrex, I hope I said that right. The new Pyrex is lowercase and the old Pyrex is uppercase.
Okay, thank you.
And also the new Pyrex has a sort of a greenish cast to it. OXO is still making glass pans with the old formula, and I believe that the glass pans that are made in France that are actually the Corning, which was Corning bought Pyrex, and I think they are making the French pans are made with the old formula. I don't know that for a fact. That's hearsay.
And then Natalie Heiler had a couple of questions for you. First one, aside from traditional Thanksgiving pies, what do you recommend she bakes this year?
Well, how many people are coming? This is a whole different thing. When I was growing up, we had 4 pies. We had apple, pumpkin, lemon meringue, and a berry pie. We either had berry or cherry. Now, one that is fabulous to do at Thanksgiving time is a cranberry pie. And I don't know if you've ever made one before, but it's a super, super easy pie to make. You just, get some cranberries, and, rinse them off, and then fill your pie pan with some. So you have the right idea. Remember to keep your boundaries so it doesn't, go way up. And then I would take half of those and kind of chop them up some, or, put them lightly through a food processor, so that you have some cranberries that are whole and some that have little chopped up, so you have different sensation in there. And then you add sugar and some orange liqueur, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, because there's so much pectin in the cranberries. You don't need to add too much thickener, and a little squeeze of lemon and a little salt. And boy, and sugar. And I think I said that also. That's a great pie. And it's kind of like a wintertime cherry pie. So if you haven't made one, and also just putting a handful of cherries, or I beg your pardon, putting a handful of cranberries into an apple pie, that's pretty darn good. Put some walnuts in there. It's really good.
That sounds amazing.
Okay, we just made the sausage and apple pie from the Art of the Pie.
Oh, good,
And
good.
we think that's going to make a stunning and surprising substitute for stuffing.
Yes.
I don't care for stuffing that much myself. This is going to be a great substitute.
Well, I
that's
have to
a
tell
great
you,
idea.
I have a little Andrew Scrivani photo story about that filling. We were in New York, and I was, balancing like 4 or 5 different things going on at the same time. And I was reducing the apple cider on the stove for that pie. And I suddenly I was, oh no. And I thought it was it had gotten down too far, and I thought it was too much. And I said, oh, well, I'll just, let me taste it anyway. And I went, oh my God, this is really good. So, that recipe was going to be different, and it changed right in the studio.
Ooh, I love stories like that. She has another question for you too. What have some of your challenges been with the pandemic? What were some of the silver linings, both maybe personally, if you're comfortable sharing, but also transitioning your business during this time?
Oh, boy, that was a big one, because all of my teaching had been in person, and I traveled all over the United States, and I traveled in Europe to teach. And then I had opened my home to pie camps here. And so suddenly it's like I was shut down. It's like, okay, is that it? Is this it? What's next? I don't know. And I think many of us are kind of feeling that way still but I made a pivot, and I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to do a virtual event. And I thought it was going to be super, super easy. And I found out there was a lot to do it, to transfer an entire curriculum, if you will, to the virtual world was, I think, before I even turned around and actually was able to push the go button here, you can register now, I had 80 hours in of learning. And I actually put out the help. I sent out an email and said, help, I need help. And I was very fortunate that a pie camper who took a class from me in Chicago said, my husband and we think we can help you. So we had, actually, it was my first Zoom meeting with them. And they said, they put me in touch with someone that they had to furlough, who knew how to do all of this stuff of putting everything together and connecting it with the ticket Eventbrite thing. And I set up a 3-day 7-part pie camp online, and it sold out in 3 minutes.
Woo!
And and I had people from Canada, from the United States, as far away as Dubai. And so now I've transferred everything online. I'm kind of not doing it for a while here because we're doing book events, but I will be back online doing that. And I do miss the in-person contact, because there is nothing like being with people at a table, telling stories and making pie. That's what we do. When you want to know, like, what is it about pie? It is a craft that is a heritage of our hearts.
Mm.
And so I miss everyone being here with me. But I have made some really incredible connections with people who are taking now class after class of day camps with me on particular subjects, who have been to Pie Camp, either in person or have come to the virtual 3-day, and now they're taking day classes from me. And we have established close relationships also. And I'm just very grateful that I can still continue to do this, to pass this craft on so that you can pass it on to someone else too.
Well, Helena, there's a lot of questions there. Maybe one more, so there's enough time for Kate to do her demonstration.
Oh gosh, there's so many.
And then
Thank you everyone for submitting all of these. These are great.
one quick question, Kate. So you must get a lot of emails or questions and things. Do you answer them as many as you
Every
can?
single one. I answer every single one.
So all these questions that are over here, will you be able to see them at some point in time, or could people send them to you, since we obviously didn't get to many of them?
Yes, because after I'm actually looking, vanilla has gotten so expensive lately, and imitation is, can you recommend any substitutions?
Oh.
Buy the best that you can afford. But imitation vanilla is not the same. I can kind of go through some of these too.
When would you recommend making a hot water crust?
Oh, so I make hot water crust if I'm going to be making like a hand-raised English pork pie, or I kind of do that in the general category of English pies, with that hot water pastry. It's not a hard dough to make. It's just a little different. It's a softer dough, and but I think, if that's the dough that you're comfortable. And also there's another dough that's in Art of the Pie. I don't have a hot water crust in Pie Camp, but I have some new doughs in there that I absolutely love. But in Art of the Pie, there's a hot water pastry crust called Enlightened Pie Dough, which I created for my friend Kim O'Donnell, who has written several cookbooks. And she wanted a pie dough. She asked if I could create a pie dough for her that would be a little healthier. So that one uses some olive oil, I think. And as the, I have to look at it again, but that's a very good hot water crust. So, just find your dough that you like, and then that's your dough.
I guess probably one last question here. So Teresa Palskill says that she was given a couple of cans of Michigan cherries. They're not pie filling, they're just the cherries. How would you approach making a filling? And then I guess segueing into that is, if somebody has frozen fruit, any frozen fruit, would any frozen fruit transition well into a pie?
Yes. Okay. So let me answer the part about the frozen fruit first. Frozen fruit first. Say that fast 3 times. Okay. I use frozen fruit all the time, and I use it as if it were fresh. I do not defrost the fruit. I just put it into the bowl, get my other ingredients in there, mix them around, and put them into my pie shell, and then top it either with my lattice or with a full top. You may, with frozen fruit, you may have to cook just a little bit longer, but you're going to find the signs that will tell you whether it's done. And those are all in the books of, looking for the bubbling, your filling needs to boil. It needs to, so it just needs to. Okay, now the one about cherries, you can use canned cherries. I would drain the liquid off of them, and then go ahead and make your pie. And I will tell you that I received some beautiful canned cherries, home canned cherries from someone one time. And I made, it was one of 4 pies that I made and took out to my county fair. And my, the sour cherry pie that I made from those canned cherries got best of show.
Mhm.
Woo! How amazing. Okay, there are still a few more questions, but do you want to transition into the demonstration?
Sure. Okay. So let me, I thought what I would do tonight is to show you, I'm going to roll out the dough. I'm going to move my grandmother and my mom and my daughter over here to the side. And then I'm going to tilt down my screen. Actually, come with me. We're going to get the dough out of the fridge. Okay.
Now you can all see why we're so lucky that Kate McDermott lives in our town.
I might bring this down to you tomorrow, Alan.
Ah, you got the hint. Good.
So I'm going to tilt my screen down. So you're going to be right in my kitchen with me. And I roll out on a pastry cloth. So, but you can roll out really on whatever you like. So I just want to have something between me and the surface, because if I roll out a dough and then have it stick on the surface, it is not a happy moment, you know. So I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on my surface here. And I'm going to unwrap my dough, which is nice and chilly. I made this about 2 hours ago. Okay. Sprinkle a little bit on top. And actually what I'm going to do before I'm going to actually cut this dough in half, because I want to show you, if I have time, I'll show you a couple little things. Okay. So I'm going to roll my dough out. Dough should be kind of pliable. I want to show you a little trick on this. If you ever have a dough that is, you're rolling it and you're getting cracked edges or things like that. And this, by the way, is my new favorite dough. It's the 1 cup out dough. I adore this dough. That's in Pie Camp. If nothing else, get the book for this dough. It is worth the price of admission. But if you have cracks on your edges and say it's like totally like breaking apart, this looks really good. But if you did, what I would suggest that you do is just kind of pleat the edges, you know, just fold your edges in just a tiny little bit here. Okay. I'm doing this kind of quickly. And then you would turn this over and say, oh, what a nice dough you are. And then you begin rolling again. And now it's got just a little bit more body on the edge and your cracks are gone and it's nice and smooth. So that's just a little tip and trick. Now, what I thought I would do tonight is show you how to make a little crostata, which is a hand pie. So this is a fun thing to do. You want to just roll your dough out to about the thickness of 1/8 inch, okay? And then I'm going to put on here I've got some mascarpone cheese. I'm going to spread some of that on here. Okay, bring it out just a little bit. There's no set amount on this. It's just kind of whatever looks right. And then I'm going to put on some lemon curd.
Ooh.
And you can make your own, or if you're in a rush, you just buy some. Makes it so easy. Put some of that on, spread it on. You could also put, if you have a jam or a preserve, you could put that on here too. Okay, you can tell I like lemon curd. And then I'm going to put on some raspberries.
So I'm just going to place those on. This could be blueberries. It could be peaches. It could be cut up plums. Anything is fine and fair game. If I wanted to put on some, or if I wanted to sprinkle on coconut, or if I wanted to put macadamia nuts in here, all of this is absolutely fine, okay? And now what I'm going to do is just very quickly pleat my edges around and bring them up, just pleating and pleating. And then I have a crostata or a galette. It's just a rustic little hand pie. This will bake in a 400 oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. You know, you want to I would brush it with an egg wash and sprinkle it with some sugar on my edges here. You can put that on top. What also is nice on here, you could also put, loosen up some apricot preserve and kind of pour that on or brush that on, and it makes your raspberries or whatever fruit that you have there really kind of nice and shiny. And then I have a little sheet pan here. And I also have this nifty thing. It's a big spatula. It's a cake lifter. So I can actually take that right off of here and just place it on my pan. And I think, Alan, you might see this tomorrow.
But a good thing we planned that event from 10 to noon. There's still time for some of you to get there. Nice.
Yeah. So Kate, with the crostata and you're baking it on a metal sheet pan, would you have a different baking time if you were doing a stoneware pan?
I don't have a stoneware pan.
Well, just like a baking stone.
A baking stone? No. What I would do is, it depends on how hot that baking stone is. So if I have thrown these into friends' pizza ovens, and those can be really hot in there. It bakes really fast. It could be done in 5 minutes. So what you want to look for, I don't mean to be sidestepping your question, but I have had a pizza oven, I have had a pizza stone in my oven, and then put my sheet pan, this is like an 8th size sheet pan. I have put that on the stone, and you do get a big blast of heat, and you will get a nice crisp bottom on there. Another, you know, you absolutely, you can do that. I want to also see that my top is done. So what you could do is put it on the stone if you like, and if it's cooking too quickly, then lift it off and put it up higher, or, you know, put it onto a tray or something, and finish baking it that way. Also, you know, I just did a pie. I put a story up on Pinterest on October 1st. This is the 5th. This is 5 days ago. And it was a story on how to make a pie in an apple pie in a cast iron skillet. And you know, that because it's cast iron, I'm getting a lot of heat on the bottom. So instead of a 60-minute bake, that pie took about 55. And boy, the crust on the bottom was great. And I have to tell you that 11.2 million people have looked at that story as of tonight.
Wow.
I'm absolutely blown away.
So just so you know, Kate, we do have 27 people on staff, most of whom you've never met.
Okay. Well, I brought some crostatas down the other day.
We're not supposed to tell people about the basement goblins.
Well, there's at least one person that doesn't work there anymore. So 26 people. Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. Is there anything? We also made the vanilla cream pie from Pie Camp.
Did you like it?
Oh my God. I don't even think we're going to make it to the turkey and the apple. I think we'll probably have that first and then see
Just
what
have
happens.
a pie potluck, you know, and then it has 2 that come to it. But okay, so here's the thing also, which is wonderful in Pie Camp. There's a whole section on pilots, which are small pies that are for one or two. Because, and I think especially right now, because we aren't having the big gatherings. So I've told you how in the pilot chapter, I've told you how to size things for small things. So you can have, one bite or two, or share it or not.
Everybody who works there knows I alone am a big gathering. All right. Anything
Circumference,
else you want to say, Kate, before we wrap this up? Anything else?
I think I'd like to say one thing is to be happy, stay home, make pie, and vote.
All right, well, I thought about asking you to talk about the many paths that you traveled in life to arrive at this point, but you put that into profound and universal focus in the afterword to home cooking, and I recommend those words to everybody. And so to all of you out there, thank you so much for staying up and sticking with us. We always have Kate's books available, and she's always gracious with her time to personalize them for you. Food and cooking is a support mechanism in difficult times. We hope that you will continue to support this bookstore in any way you can, and we encourage you to support all the small businesses in your community. Your community is where you live. You need it, and it needs you. So I want to thank the staff of Port Book and News, Helena and Vanessa especially, for their work this evening and for holding my hand through this process. Thank you to Michael and Callista for all their efforts. Thank you to my wife, Cindy, without whom there would absolutely be no Port Book and News. I guarantee you that. And our deepest gratitude to Kate McDermott. Now, tomorrow, when we meet Kate, we will look like this.
And I will be back, right?
We'll be back.
Okay, there will be
Occupying
counters between us, but I will be there signing and personalizing books tomorrow.
Helena will give up the honorary Kate McDermott chair that is in the window of Port Book.
You might be able to see it behind me here.
Yep. And for everybody out there, I hope that you and your friends and family stay safe and well. And with Kate's books, you will be well read and well fed. Thank you all.
Oh, and then we should tell everyone that tomorrow the signing where Kate will be in the store will be from 10 until noon.
Yep, not too late to get on a red eye and get here.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.